All this information is going to be available to you through the agency CCC to later on. So you don't have to take extraneous notes. Just if you have a question about something as we're going through it, write it down, and then we'll try and get to those at the end of it. If not, you can submit those through the chat link, and then we will actually answer those as we're ongoing, and also if we don't get to all of them at a later date. So the agency overview. Heard our friend Mrs. Thomas talk about some of the things we do at GSA. The GSA mission is to deliver values and savings in real estate acquisition, technology, and other mission support services across the federal government. In short, the GSA is the buying entity for almost all of the civilian agencies within the federal government, excluding DoD. The one thing we like to say is that GSA buys everything that the US government needs except for bombs and bullets. We do not buy weapon systems, but we buy the trigger that goes in we sell the trigger that goes in the gun and all those things. So we don't purchase weapon systems. Those are strictly done by DoD. But what we do have is contracts that allow for everything else that you would need to support anything that happens. And there's two major organizations within GSA. One is the Public Building Service. Public Building Service provides real estate, space, architecture, interior design, and construction to federal agencies. You've probably seen some of our construction going on if you've been up along the border and you saw the Madawaska Land Port of Entry is one of the big projects that we have ongoing. But there's also, as Fran mentioned, an ongoing project to upgrade all those stations along the northern border and the southern border. So there's a lot of work happening right now in PBS, the Public Building Service for those. The Public Building Service is also the federal landlord. We provide the space and the office space for almost all the federal agencies in our federal buildings. We own the federal courthouses, we own the federal buildings, and we own a lot of historical buildings around the country. Our historical lighthouses and stuff all belongs to GSA. The U.S. Capitol is a GSA facility. The White House is a GSA facility. GSA is also the organization that transitions our government after every election. We have a transition team, the presidential transition team, that actually works out of GSA to make sure that the new administration has everything they need to basically start off on a good foot. I think in the past there's been collaboration between our transition team and how you guys in Canada transition to. There's also been work between the GSA administration and your equivalency at the Canadian government. We kind of like share ideas about, especially about how to maintain buildings along the northern portion where it's extreme cold weather. The other organization within GSA that some of you may be interested in is the Federal Acquisition Service. The Federal Acquisition Service delivers a vast number of commercial goods and services. They are responsible for some of the major contracts that we call GWACs, which are basically worldwide contracting, a worldwide contract that any organization within our federal government can use. So that's important because FAST not only does those contracts, but FAST also controls our vehicle fleet. When you see any U.S. government vehicle that had that GSA, that's us. That's our fleet of vehicles that we provide to the federal sector. FAST also manages what we call the Technology Transformation Fund, which is a think tank of high-tech individuals who actually look at the technology that we need for future endeavors into anything from going to the cloud to AI. All that stuff right now is being worked through the FAST technology transformation people. So the agency overview, public building, like I said, PBS are the Public Building Service. They are the landlords for the civilian federal government. PBS acquires space on behalf of federal government through new construction and leasing. So not only do we build space, we also lease space. And we act as a caretaker for the federal properties across the country. We own over almost 8,800 assets in our inventory, and we have more than 370 million square feet of workspace that we actually rent out to other agencies within the thing. Think of us as a a development company that builds a building and then they lease it out to occupants. That's what GSA does. We build buildings for the federal government and then we lease it out to other federal agencies within there. So in one of our buildings, you will have 10, sometimes 20 different federal agencies operating on that space. And we have over 500 historic properties that includes the White House, includes a lot of the presidential libraries. All those things fall upon the GSA's management and maintenance. So what does PBS procure? Things like construction, A&E services, janitorial, landscaping, interior design, asbestos removal, HVAC. We do all the stuff that you normally would do as a commercial company to maintain a multi, multi-floor building. We do it all, but we don't do it. We contract it out. So all this list of things here, GSA has contracts. So you can, if you're a tradesman who's an electrician and you have a small electric company, a big electrical company, you can also bid on work at GSA. So where are the PBS opportunities? If you're looking for PBS opportunities with the Public Building Service, first thing you do is you go to the GSA forecast. Later on, we'll take a brief look at that so you'll see what it looks like. The other one is GSA subcontracting. So that means that if you don't want to be the prime contractor, if you don't want to be, you want to work for someone else and let them basically do the paperwork and you do the work. That's kind of how subcontracting works. Then we have a way that you can find opportunities for subcontracting. Most of these things are listed in sam.gov as the platform on which we list these opportunities, which has become really, really important to us because there's a lot of information on there. That's why we're going to have a different short discussion about sam.gov. And then there's the things like the multiple award schedule, the MAS. You hear a lot of time you say get on the GSA schedule. Those of you who basically have been in the federal space here in America for a while, you will understand that because you probably heard it a lot. Are you on the GSA schedule? But that's what they're talking about, the MAS schedule, which is a process to go through. And we'll briefly hit that. Indefinite delivery, indefinite quantity, the IDIQs. That's something that a lot of the regions are doing. And what that allows them to do is basically look at their needs over the next year to 5 years and put in place a contracting vehicle that allows them to quickly access those requirements or someone to fulfill those requirements without going through the whole process of a competitive contract, which could take months. With an IDIQ, you can get what you need and get the work started sometimes in weeks. So that's why we do it. There's a link there about GSA auctions. If any of you want to buy excess material from the U.S. government, we have an auction house that's also run by GSA. It's an online auction facility, and you can find all this stuff just by going to www.gsa and then do a search for it, and you'll see it right there. It's all accessible. The Federal Acquisition Service, my old home, GSA is one of our solely dedicated to procuring goods and services for the government. So that's our mission in life, is provide the goods and services that the federal government needs to function properly. So as an integral part of GSA, FAST possesses the capability to deliver comprehensive products. So if you're talking about advanced technology, it's usually going to come through our FAS division. What do they do? What do they procure? They procure environmental services, moving services, staffing, information technology. They control our transportation services throughout the whole federal sector. It comes out of FAST. Law enforcement. These are all the different type of contracts that you can find within the FAST portfolio. Equipment, furniture, professional training, telecom, network services, my old home, travel services, emergency preparedness. All this stuff is done by our Federal Acquisition Service. So and their opportunities are basically the same. GSA forecast lists their opportunities. Subcontracting opportunities are listed there. If you go into it, you'll find that what we call companies who tend to be it will put themselves on the list so that other small companies, if people want to partner, can find them in the sam.gov. So sam.gov, once again, is a platform where opportunities reside for almost every agency. You're going to see sam.gov over and over again because that's our go-to platform. That's where all of our opportunities, no matter who needs it, where it's coming from, that's where it resides. Okay. The multi-award schedule we talked about, indefinite delivery, understand. Government-wide acquisition, the GWACs. A lot of you who have dealt with the military, you probably have heard the term GWACs. There's three uh, major ones that you're going to hear in the presentation. Just understand that a GWAC is just like is a pre-competed contract where certain companies show that they can do the work, and then they're awarded a contract number, and then we can call upon them to do that work in a shorter notice. All this is to make contracting more efficient and quicker, because we don't have our process is very detailed, and sometimes that ties you up for days when you just need something now. So that's what these contracts are in place for. That's one of the things FAST does very good, is put in place high technology contracts for communication equipment, everything. So the GWAC itself is a great program for you to understand if you into that IT technology, because that's where those opportunities usually going to exist. There's companies out there now who are on the GWAC that you can partner with, and also companies out there that you can provide a resource to their supply chain as a subcontractor. So what does OSMA do? Well, we actually we advocate for the small businesses, but over time we've transitioned into the front door of GSA's business community, and at the regional level, we act as a liaison not only to agencies looking for resources or have issues, but we also act as a liaison to the Small Business Administration, um, agencies like the DoD Northeast Council, which is a conglomerate of agencies and prime companies that often looking for subcontracting work. So if there's something that has to do with business and doing business with GSA, you can reach out to the OSBU office nearest you, or the OSBU office nearest the opportunity you're looking to learn about, and they can always assist you. If they can't give you the information, they will point you to the people or the program management office that can also help you. And you can find our different offices at this link, www.gsa.gov, small business. So we exist around the country in 11 different centers, basically. In the regional, we're tied to the regional areas right now. And Region 1, New England, is the region that Michelle and I are actually from. And if I didn't introduce Michelle, Michelle is the power behind the throne right now. She is controlling everything, and she's answering your questions as they come through our system. So Michelle Shamos is my partner in Region 1. The two of us do the same job. So, but around the country, there are 11 offices that you can reach out to if you have any questions, anything about. And you will also see those, and you go into the opportunity or the forecast, you will see points of contact for each SBTA, which is a small business technical advisor assigned to that opportunity, that you can reach out to if you cannot contact the program manager or the contracting officer. Okay, accessing federal opportunities. So let's get into the meat of how this works. There's certain things you have to have if you're going to go after federal contracts. If you want to be a prime contractor, remember, this is about prime contracting and not yet the subcontracting portion. So if you want to deal directly with the U.S. government and you want to hold a contract issued to your company by the U.S. government, these are the things you have to have. You have to have be entered into SAM, which is the System for Award Management. You have to also have a UEI. And a lot of you know all about this. You probably have been through that process already, but we'll hit that later. There is a thing called small business category. If you are in the United States, we have set aside authority for certain disadvantaged businesses, such as women-owned small business. Historically, I need us hub zones, veteran-owned small business, and service-disabled veteran-owned businesses. We try to put as much work as we can into those, much work as they can handle. But we have goals that we try to meet every year. And then the other thing is you have to determine what your NICS code is. What code do you want to seek opportunities, and what code do you want to be found under? Remember, the NICS code is not only for you to tell you for you to find work, it's also for us to find you. Because when we do a search, when we our market research, we're looking at NICS codes and we pull out the pool of companies under that NICS code. Then we sort those out, and then we reach out to those to see if they're interested in our opportunity. And size standard. This link here, when you go there, it's going to tell you how we determine the size of a company for federal contracts. In federal contracting in the US, you are either an other than small, which is a large business, or you're a small business. And there, each one of those businesses, depending upon the NICS code, has it has this equivalency. Okay, so many employees, so much money, or whatever is laid out there. And if you fall within that, then you are considered a large or small. However, if you are an international company, meaning if you're a company that's from outside the United States, you are automatically considered an other than small or a large company. And you have to basically present yourself as such, and you have to follow the guidelines for a large company. Um, don't let that stop you, because a lot of times that's just semantics. But at the same time, there are some responsibilities that a large company has to do that a small one doesn't. And large companies with contracts within the federal government, larger contracts, have to actually provide opportunities for subcontracting. And that's something that will be explained to you when you go to look for those opportunities. Is also something that will explain to you by the contracting officer before they will award you a contract directly. The source of sought notice. The source of sought notice is a method of market research that we use in our federal contracting. It's published on SAM.gov. Once again, SAM.gov raises his head, right? It's invaluable for determining availability of small businesses. It's how we determine whether or not work can stay in this, be set aside for the small business population, or go to the other than small, large business, or open. So once we open it up, we never actually set work aside for large businesses. We can only set aside for small businesses. But a large business can compete for work if it's put into the open solicitation and it's not set aside. So that's why this is kind of important to you. But the one thing about sources sought is important to our people in the States is that if there are small businesses doing the work, but they will not respond to a sources sought, then we cannot make a determination that this work is eligible for small business set aside. So that kind of prevents us from doing that. The SBA Small Business Dynamic Search. Don't let this fool you. It may call itself a small business, but you can't go in and register your company in there. But you just basically would say that you're not a small business, but you can put other than small. So you can go in and register into this system. And the reason why this is important is that if we ever pull a database where we're looking for companies, we would pull that database out for this system, and it would tell us whether or not how many small businesses exist in a certain NICS code and others in there. The population may be 2,000. Of that 2,000, maybe 1,000 that are small businesses, and of that 1,000, there may be 200 that are women-owned. Then there may be 200 that are service-able veterans, and that's what we use this for. It is the required platform for our COs to do, our contracting officers, if you, that's what I mean by COs, to do market research. The GSA schedule. The GSA schedule is open to international and American companies. It's a process you go through. It is technically, it is an IDIQ because the first base contract is for 5 years. Every option, there's 4 options after that, is for 5 years. So if you were to get accepted and awarded a GSA scheduled contract, there's only one scheduled contract now, one contract number. You apply for it And then for the next 20 to 25 years, you can offer your goods and service to the federal government. It's a 5-year base, 3-year option period. It provides fast, flexible, cost-effective procurement. Is this what we call a best of class type of contract, which means that the information and everything that it has the best pricing and you can find. So it is a go-to contract for most of our agencies to buy goods and services off of. So the first thing agencies do is look and see if is it on the GSA schedule. If it already exists on GSA schedule, they don't have to do a contract. They do a task order to the company's listed there. So this may be where a lot of you want to play. There's a process you go through. Like it says, it represents 21% of the overall federal procurement spending, about $42 billion in sales annually, just on that one contract. There's over 19 schedules contractors holding it, and 80% of those are small businesses within the United States. So remember, you cannot be a small business if you're from outside the United States. So those companies who hold this contract will be classified in our system as other than small or large. So, oh, this is a contract. It's a place for you to find opportunities, and it will increase your visibility to government customers. Think of this GSA schedule and its online portal where companies are listed as kind of like our electronic phone book. So when people are looking for goods and service, they go and they find your stuff right there. But it is not a certification, so there's no certification to it. And the big thing is that it doesn't guarantee you sales. It guarantees you access and opportunities to a restricted database of opportunities where you can sell your goods and services. It's not mandatory to do business with the government. You can still, if the agency is willing to write a contract, they can still reach you that way. But most agencies prefer to use existing contracts because it speeds things up and it saves time. And plus, you already have a price listing because that's one of the things you do when you get on the GSA schedule. So agencies are not mandated to use the GSA schedule, but most of them do. And it does not affect construction. So construction is not on schedule. Now, construction management is on schedule. So if you want to do that type of thing in your construction company, if you have a construction management division, you can get that on schedule, but you cannot put construction itself. It's forbidden by federal law. Oh, boy, did I jump fast. Okay, when we talk about the categories, and you'll hear this when you're talking to a lot of our um, contract knowledge about category management. There are 12 categories now in which GSA has pooled its products and where we look to support. And they are, as they're listed here, your company would fit under one of those categories, depending on if you sell facility managements, if you do information technology, you do office management, professional services, or travel, then you slide under those 12. Think of this as a shopping aisle for our customers. GSA's customers are all the other federal agencies. So when they're looking to purchase something or they need a service, they go to this. They say, okay, I'm looking to buy furniture. I go to furniture and furnishing in aisle 23. I go to travel in aisle 7. So this is just a way of making these pools that are easily for customers to find, and in that pool is certain contracts that allows them to execute their needs. These are how the subcategories are broken out into things like under structure. These are the things that are listed at facility services, facility solutions. Over here on the information technology, hardware, software, telecommunication, IT solutions, human capital, background investigation company. So if your company do any of these things, this is kind of where you fall into your niche. So, give it a look later on when you get this, and it's going to, there's a lot of different ways. You can actually be in different aisles. You can be a facility company that maybe does musical instruments, you install whatever. So you can have multiple categories. You don't just have to have one. But when you're listing your stuff, usually you have to pick a primary that you want to list it under, and then you list all the other stuff under there, the NICS codes, whatever. That goes back to the NICS code thing. You can have multiple NICS codes, but you have to pick one in which you want your primary to be, because that's how we're determining your size. So if you're offering under that NICS code, we determine under that NICS code whether you're large or small. In your case, you can always be large, so it's not a big thing for you, but it allows you to go out and also find partners that you might want to partner with, who are considered small business, who have access to contracts that you might not have access to. And I'm quite sure you guys know what joint ventures and mentor proteges are, but those are two ways that you can bring different companies together to provide a solution or a product that we're looking for. That's a portion of contracting that you definitely need to look it up, and because it's different. Some agencies offer mentor project programs, but most of those are going away. But I know there's a lot of the DoD contractors who actually have mentor protege programs that you may want to look into. Once again, more subcategories for the other 12. So things to consider if you even considering going for the MAS contract of these. At the change of time of period considered, say from 24 months to 12 months, they adjusted the threshold from 25,000 within the first 2 months. All that's changed. Today, the threshold is basically you have the first 5 years you have to do a single $100,000. So rather than looking at this and judging you every year, they said let's just, since we gave them a 5-year contract, let's just review what they've done in that 5 years. So it went up to $100,000 for the first 5 years, and then $125,000 the next 5 years and after. So it made it simpler rather than trying to track you every year and the cost of doing a review every year. We do a review at the 5-year period. At the end of your base contract, you should have sold at least $100,000. At the end of your first option, you should be at sales at 125,000. And the second and third option, $125,000. So the company kind of like maxes out at $125,000 for the 5-year periods, taking you out to basically 20 years. An important note here is that the normal MAS contract period for to go through the process can be between 6 and 12 months. That's a long time. But if you are providing an advanced technology or something like that, we have what we call the speed ramp and on ramp that actually allows you to do it faster. So those are some improvements we've done in the program to try and get people on contract earlier. There's more information about that if you go to our website and look at it. It's an in-depth discussion about what you have to do to meet the specifications of those. Things to consider before you even think about the GSA schedule is which federal agencies are purchasing my product and service. That cost analysis, that business analysis is something you should always do. Who's spending money on what I sell? I call it following the money. You always want to follow the money in contracting, because if there's no money, there's no contract. How much are they buying? Have they awarded any set asides? You want to know that if the work is already set aside, even though the work is being done, it doesn't give you the opportunity to bid on the work, but it may give you the opportunity to partner with companies who may have been awarded or something, or come in as a subcontractor. So who are my competitors? Who holds the current contract? This is just business 101. You should always know who's in your pool. You know, if you're playing the All Blacks, you're in trouble. If you're playing the USA, you might be pretty good at a good win. For those of you who don't know what I'm talking about rugby, not football. So That's why you want to know who your competitors are. If my competitors are in that space, then I think I want to eventually get in that space, and that should be my long-term planning and my strategic planning of my company. My business planning is to be where company A is, and these are the things that I need to do. Those are the things that the federal contracting can help you by building up that past performance, building up that smaller work, getting to the larger work. What contracts are set to expire that I can compete for in the future? Now, this is something a lot of companies forget. If there's work out there and the work is being done, a lot of times those companies may not bid on that work if it's continuous work. So you want to look and see, okay, who's doing the type of work in my space, or has it been done? What type of money was spent on it? And oh, by the way, is this a continuing need, or was this a one-time need? If it's a continuing need, then you want to know when the present contract expires so that you can be there to step in if there's ever a problem. Additional information about the MAS. You probably guys are probably getting tired of MAS, but this is something you can go to. There's a lot of information on our websites about the MAS program, and this is where you'd find it. One of the things is we call it MAS roadmap. It gives you information about how, what you should know before you actually start doing it. It gives you some marketing tips, also some strategies to help your company not only grow, but also to find opportunities once you have the MAS. So the MAS roadmap and stuff is good for you. Um, so what business resources are out there? Lots. There's lots of information. The e-library is basically where a lot of the MAS information is about. It's contract award information. You can go into the e-library and you can actually see if your competition has federal contracts and what type of contracts and what type of money they're making. So this is a good place for you to do your business analysis of your market. The federal acquisition schedule, this schedule sales query is a data run that you as a company may not be able to do, but if you have some type of a counselor in business development, they should be able to help you run that. And basically, once again, it's going to give you that view of what's being spent, who's buying what, and how much money they're spending. Same thing with USA spending. It also does the same thing. Agencies who spend over 3,500 are mandated that they put that into USA spending so that the public can see where the taxpayers' money is going. You as a business will tell you where the opportunities are. So we were talking about GWACs, the government-wide acquisition contracts. These are the big money contracts that all the big players like Raytheon, Grumman, Swarovski helicopters, GE boat, all these people are in this space because these are provide major type of systems. And 8A stars is one that's set aside for small. It's a program to develop small underprivileged companies so that they can grow. So the 8A stars were set up to help them and also help us make our goaling towards helping socially economic undeveloped companies reach federal contracts. That's two, as it says, is for our veterans. It was set up to help our veterans. Alliance 2 is a major GWAC open to almost any company. You can bid on it. It's an IT solutions, mainly in hardware, software, and service solutions. Good place if you're in that space. You want to be on Alliant 2, or you want to basically Alliant 2 is closing out, and the new one is Alliant 3. So Alliant is a GWAC, and it's going into its third generation. And each one of those generations is about 5 to 6 years to 10 years that it can go out to. So you want to track the Alliant program and those contracts to see, what type of companies there. That's why the link is there about Alliant 3, because we're in the process right now of basically reviewing Alliant 3. We have not finished the award of Alliant 3. So there's companies who bid on this work who have been identified, but they have not had the award. GSA Interact is a place where you can go and sign up for information. It's a way of holding conversations with our agencies. So you want to be there. here's the big dog and is the system for award management. It's a consolidated platform that basically where we have all the information about acquisitions. And that's what it was designed to basically be a one stop where you can find everything that you would need about federal contracting. And that's what they provide. It provides contracting opportunities. It can provides contract data, wage determination, entity registrations, entity reporting, and assistance listing. It's got all the stuff in there that help that you would need. And you can find it at the link down there, sam.gov, content home. Once you get on this platform right that you're seeing right now, once you're on that platform, to get started, it takes you into, basically, what do you want to do? Do you want to do an initial sam.gov? Do you want to update a sam.gov? Do you want to just respond to query? Or are you looking for information? All these things are available to you. The one thing about it is that you don't always have to be registered in sam.gov to see this information. So right now, you can go out there and basically walk through this system and see how things are going. Okay, GSA contracting opportunities. If you go to the web link below, acquisitiongateway.gov, the forecast, it takes you to this page. And on this page is where you can research and you can put in information and find what opportunities exist. And you can also filter those opportunities by adding more and more information. Or you can go just put in NICS code, and then it's going to pull up a list of things on NICS code. Or you can go in and you can put the agency in, and it's going to pull up different agencies and what opportunities they have. So this is a good place for you to go in to find opportunities. Understand that when you go into these pages, the opportunities, that's the agency's wish list. Now you have to find out whether there was funding, it's been funded. And sometimes it'll say, and sometimes it'll say to be determined, TBD. Those things are important because if it's to be determined, then most likely you are not uh, going to waste a lot of time on it, but you want to track it offline. So yeah. So that's an important site. Another one there, the renovation of vacant space. This is one where we pulled up. Is actually there was an opportunity. The opportunity was out there for the U.S. Attorney's Office, who was actually doing minor construction in the office. And this is kind of what it looks like when you pull one up. It has but down at the bottom where you see the red circle where it says a point of contact, those people are important. So if you have questions, that's who you would reach out to. For our office, the one here that says advisor info email, that usually is going to take you to one of our people who actually acts as the small business specialist for that opportunity. So every opportunity has one of our SBTAs, which is small business technical advisor, assigned to it, and also it has a contracting officer or program manager representative assigned to it. And those are the two people that usually you can find information by reaching out to them. And it'll have their email, their name, their email that you can reach out to. The forecast of opportunities with other federal agencies. GSA has a platform that lists several other agencies and it's growing consistently. Um, right now, the agencies that are using this platform that GSA provides for free for them, you can see right here in the list, people like the Department of Education, Department of Agriculture, Department of Defense and stuff. These these are all the different links that take you to the forecast that those people have posted. Eventually, all of these we hope will be on the forecasting tool that you just saw. And then I thought I had a slide for the forecast too, but this one here is basically showing you this is how you get to those people and their forecast. So we had put this page in there so it automatically shows you They posted their forecast of opportunities. You can click on it and go to that forecast. Okay, subcontracting opportunities. The subcontracting opportunities are listed in the GSA subcontracting directory. It's also, the link is down below. This is gsa.gov site. It is not the same as sam.gov, so it's one of where you're outside of the SAM. But those are only GSA subcontracting. Now, what that means is that this is a list where you can find prime contractors or prime contracts who may be looking for people to assist them as subcontractors, and that's why it's there and it's available for your use. Additional OSABU information and resources. Click on any of these links, scan the barcode, and it's going to take you out and show you what's out there as far as fact sheets, events that are coming up, and stuff. Therefore, you can get further training on OSABU, on business. Now, do not be put off by the word small businesses. Our office handles all businesses, because if you're a large business, you sometimes have more opportunities than we have for small businesses. So we like to keep that relationship with large companies, which most of you would fall under as other than small. And therefore, when you look at the things that are out there and you're bidding on them, you're looking for things that are full and open. They're not set aside for small business, because then you can bid on that work. If you get that work, you would most likely, depending upon the size of that work, would have to use subcontracting. And so we provide that assistance in helping you find subcontractors. This page is on the GSA website, allows you to find different, let's say, members of our team that you can reach out to, who can help you with questions, point you in the right direction towards program managers who may control opportunities that fall within your NICS code or things that you want to know about. So this is just an informational page here that allows you to actually find a partner or a mentor within our organization who can help your company and explain things to you as you go forward. We have them, like I said, there's 11 offices around the country. And of those 11 offices, anytime there's an opportunity in their region, you can reach out to them. And if they don't know about it, they can research it and get back to you and tell you, yeah, this is valid. No, this was issued. No, this one was canceled. This one wasn't funded. So they can do all those things for you if you don't understand something. So it's vital in that way.